Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to essential knowledge, straight from the source material.
No.
Today we're diving into something really important, an area that's honestly shifting how we think about mental wellness. It's about the powerful complementary role diet plays in managing symptoms of depression.
Yeah, it's such a critical conversation because,
Right.
for a long time, treatment has quite rightly focused on medication and therapy. Those are the pillars, absolutely. But our sources really highlight a major shift. There's just undeniable evidence now that what you eat isn't just like a side issue. It's an active participant in your mental health.
Exactly. So that's our mission today, isn't it? We're
Yeah.
going to unpack the evidence, show how, actively feeding the brain the right stuff, the right nutrients, and just as importantly, cutting back on things we know are disruptive like tons of sugar, heavily processed foods, how that can really influence mood and symptoms. So this is your deep dive into that food-mood connection. We're really focusing on the science behind it all.
Right. We're moving past just stories and anecdotes here. We're looking at the clinical data. It's really about understanding that you can actively support your emotional well-being by, giving your brain the optimal fuel it needs. Simple as that, really.
Okay, let's get into it then. Some foundational science first. The evidence, like you said, it's not subtle, is it? We're talking multiple meta-analyses, randomized controlled clinical studies. They all confirm this really strong link. When people adopt healthier eating habits, they see a real tangible drop in depressive symptoms. And this isn't just correlation, right? These are interventions driving measurable improvements.
Absolutely. And if you think about the bigger picture, it just highlights why diet can be such a powerful complementary approach. I mean, your brain, it's an incredibly active organ, uses a ton of energy. It absolutely requires a steady stream of specific vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, all that stuff, to make and regulate the chemicals that control our mood. So if those building blocks aren't there or they're insufficient, your brain's ability to just, keep things balanced, it's compromised. Mental health suffers because the basic raw materials are literally missing.
Okay, so when these studies talk about healthier eating habits, what are we actually talking about? What's the common ground? It doesn't sound like it's about cutting everything out.
No, not usually. It's almost always about a consistent focus on, reducing the junk food, the high-calorie, low-nutrient stuff, and at the same time, boosting the intake of nutrient-rich foods, things like whole grains, vegetables, and, this is critical, healthy fats. And what's really striking here, and maybe a big motivator for you listening, is how quickly things can change. The sources really point this out. The benefits aren't just for people who manage, perfect diets for years and years. We're seeing pretty compelling evidence that even, short-term dietary shifts can lead to noticeable mood improvements, fewer symptoms, especially in studies with young adults.
That's massive. Because let's be honest, motivation is often the biggest hurdle when you're feeling low, right? Knowing you might not have to wait 6 months to feel any difference, that could change everything. So why do the sources think we see such rapid change? What's the mechanism there?
Well, researchers think it might be down to a couple of things. First, when you quickly cut out high-sugar inflammatory foods, that can lead to a really fast drop in systemic inflammation markers. It kind of calms down that immediate physiological stress. And second, the gut microbiome. It responds incredibly quickly to things like dietary fiber and whole foods. Even just a few weeks of eating better can start to balance out that gut environment. And we know the gut sends positive signals back to the brain. It's like an almost immediate system upgrade.
Right. So the key isn't necessarily being perfect from day one, but sticking with it, that consistency. Because even a small positive shift gives you that feedback, encourages you to continue.
Exactly. Consistency is absolutely the crucial element for making those benefits last, for moving from just a temporary lift to, sustained well-being.
Okay, speaking of consistent patterns, if you had to point to one dietary template based on all this research linking food and mental health, the sources seem pretty clear, don't they? The Mediterranean diet keeps coming up.
Oh, absolutely. It's hands down the single most researched dietary pattern when we talk about brain health and mental wellness. It's basically a blueprint for nutrient density.
Right. And most people have a basic idea. Lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains.
Yeah.
Relying on fish and seafood for protein. Olive oil is the main fat, plenty of nuts and seeds. But why is this specific combination so good for the brain?
Well, the numbers are pretty staggering, actually. People who follow this kind of diet consistently report significantly fewer depressive symptoms. I mean, to put a figure on it, one major study showed that up to, I think it was 32% of participants saw what researchers called major clinical mood improvements just from sticking to this way of eating.
Wow, 32%. That's a number you can't ignore. A third of people getting a major turnaround in mood severity.
Yeah.
That sounds comparable to success rates for some established therapies. What does major mood improvement actually mean in that context, like clinically?
Yeah, it means moving effectively out of the clinically depressed category. So, into remission, or maybe just having very low-grade symptoms. It's genuinely life-changing improvement, not just feeling a tiny bit better. And the reason this diet seems to work so well is exactly what you touched on. It's the synergy. It's not some magic bullet in one specific food, like an olive or a grape. It's the whole combination of all these healthy things working together, hitting multiple biological pathways at once.
That's a perfect segue. We've talked about what to eat. Now let's really drill down into the how. How does something like the Mediterranean diet or any healthy pattern physically change things for mental health? Let's look inside the body.
Okay. We can probably focus on three main mechanisms that the literature really confirms. The first one is maybe the most critical link we understand right now, inflammation reduction.
Right. Inflammation seems to pop up everywhere these days, connected to almost every chronic condition. The brain's clearly no exception.
Absolutely not. Chronic, low-grade systemic inflammation. It's strongly, directly linked to the pathology of depression. You can almost think of it as your brain being constantly stressed out by this sort of internal friction. Now, foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which you find loads of in fish and olive oil, key parts of that Mediterranean template, and various antioxidants. They actively work to reduce that neuroinflammation. They're essentially sending anti-inflammatory signals.
So if inflammation is like this physical stress causing the problem, the food is literally calming the brain down. But I guess if you're really struggling with mental health, the idea of reducing inflammation might feel a bit abstract.
That's a fair point. Maybe think of it this way. Diet isn't just fuel, it's almost like medicine that changes the brain's physical environment. And when you lower that inflammation, you create a much better setting for the second key mechanism to actually work properly. And that is neurotransmitter synthesis.
Okay, this is where we get into the brain chemicals everyone's heard of: serotonin, dopamine, the mood regulators.
Exactly those. They're crucial for mood stability, obviously, but they need specific raw materials to be made efficiently. And this is where things like whole grains and vegetables really come into play. Nutrients like the B-complex, vitamins, zinc, magnesium, and those omega-3s, again, they're essential cofactors. Like B vitamins are needed for the steps that turn the amino acid tryptophan into serotonin. So if your diet's low in, say, B12 or folate, your ability to actually produce the chemicals you need to feel balanced is just, well, it's blocked, structurally impeded.
Okay, that really drives home that synergy point you made earlier. The veggies and grains give you the B vitamins for making the chemicals, while the olive oil and fish provide the anti-inflammatory omega-3s. So you get the ingredients and the right environment for them to work.
Precisely. It's a whole system.
Yeah.
Which then leads us nicely into the third mechanism. This one's probably generated the most buzz in recent years. Gut health modulation, the gut-brain connection.
Ah, yes, the famous gut-brain axis. It's everywhere, but there's serious science behind it, right?
Oh, absolutely. A diet that's rich in fiber, which is basically food for your good gut bacteria, and maybe includes probiotics. That supports a balanced, diverse gut microbiome. And the bacteria in your gut, they produce all sorts of compounds like short-chain fatty acids that communicate directly with the brain, often via the vagus nerve. And considering something like, up to 90% of your serotonin is actually made in the gut? Well, a healthy, balanced gut environment is deeply linked to better mental health outcomes. You're essentially feeding billions of tiny partners who help regulate your mood.
Wow. The link between the diet, the gut, and the brain seems undeniable based on this. But we have to be realistic, too. When you're feeling really low, you don't usually reach for a kale salad, do you? You crave comfort food.
Yeah, and that brings us to this idea of the bidirectional relationship between diet and mood. It goes both ways, and it's really important to grasp this because it shows why breaking the cycle can be so tough.
Okay, so describe that cycle, that sort of downward spiral the sources talk about.
Well, it often starts with low mood. That feeling drives you to seek immediate gratification, right? Which often means craving those classic comfort foods, high sugar, high fat, heavily processed things. Now, these foods often give you a quick blood sugar spike, a temporary kind of false sense of energy or satisfaction. But, and this is the key, they lack the actual nutrients your brain needs, and they often fuel more inflammation, which in the long run actually worsens your mood and depressive symptoms.
So the very thing you crave for temporary relief actually digs the hole deeper. It's a biological feedback loop trapping you.
Or
But if low mood is biologically pushing you towards sugary comfort food, how do the sources suggest people can realistically break out of that? It sounds really hard.
it is hard, and the strategy isn't usually about this sudden, radical diet overhaul that often just sets people up for failure and more guilt. Instead, the sources tend to suggest focusing on small, consistent swaps, prioritizing nutrient density and maybe protein at each meal. So instead of grabbing, I don't know, a sugary cereal bar, maybe reach for something with fiber and healthy fat, like a handful of nuts or some Greek yogurt. These choices help to blunt that sharp blood sugar spike and provide more stable energy and those vital nutrients. It gently interrupts that damaging spike and crash cycle. It's really about being mindful and gradually replacing the poor choices with better ones. Consistency over perfection.
Right. And this isn't just about managing symptoms for people already struggling. If we zoom out, there are huge population studies, right? They consistently show people who eat diets rich in whole grains, fruits, veggies. They have a lower risk of developing depression in the first place.
Exactly. That really highlights the incredible preventative power of food. It's about building resilience. A diet that's diverse and packed with nutrients seems protective. It suggests that getting this variety isn't just for treatment, it's necessary for keeping your brain resilient over the long haul.
Okay, so that brings us back neatly to the core message, the main takeaway we want you to leave with today. No single food, no magic pill is going to cure depression. That context is absolutely vital.
Couldn't agree more, however.
Yeah.
The evidence is just overwhelming now. Adopting healthier dietary patterns, and look, the Mediterranean diet is a fantastic, well-researched template, can contribute powerfully to your mental health. It offers a really promising, practical path towards a happier, more stable mind, working right alongside established clinical treatments like therapy and medication.
So the message seems clear. If you're looking to make a change, focus on shifting your plate towards whole foods. Minimally processed, nutrient-dense stuff.
Yes. And just remember that power of consistency we talked about. While even short bursts of better eating can bring noticeable results, it's that sustained effort, sticking with it, that truly matters for locking in lasting mental well-being and really achieving that long-term symptom reduction.
So given we know this relationship between diet and mood goes both ways, depression affects food choices, and food choices affect depression, maybe consider this. Where could just one small, consistent action start to interrupt that cycle for you today? What specific whole food, maybe something rich in B vitamins or omega-3s, could you consciously, consistently add to your diet this week? Knowing that even those brief interventions can start making a difference, that's definitely something powerful to mull over until our next deep dive.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.